Hey guys, this is Kai here with Pure Investments. Today I'd like to talk to you about profit-taking strategies. This is a question we get a lot in our premium chat. Basically, how do you know when to sell? It's one of the age-old questions. Everybody likes to say HODL, but eventually you do have to take profit, especially in the volatile marketplace we're in. There's been a lot of coins, Verge, for example, or TRX, which went up thousands of percent and are now down 70% from those highs. And if you didn't take profit up there, you're probably kicking yourself now. So let's break into the profit-taking strategies. There's two primary ones. The first of which is scaling out. Now, what scaling out would be is just with every trade, you're going to set your stop target and your profit targets. Your stop target can be a percentage stop. Some people like to do 5 or 7% for every single trade. I'm more of a support stop loss type of person, so I may enter a trade and one of them might be I enter at support and set a 2 or 3% stop from there, figuring if it breaks down I want to give a little bit of leeway. And sometimes I'll enter in a little bit of a wiggle room area. I'll enter at a breakout and set a stop at support that might be 10%. But either way, you want to have the stop set ahead of time and you want to have that trade planned, because that's the most important part of any trade, is planning it out before you get into it. You don't want to just dive into a trade. The second is setting your profit targets. Same concept. When you enter this trade, one of the first things you should do is set your profit targets. Know going in what your targets are going to be to sell. This is especially important with scaling out because you need to know which spots you're going to be selling at. Now, this is going to be, these 2 points are going to be the same with the next method, but the third point right here, which is sell a portion at each profit target, is what's important to scaling out. And I'm going to show you what I mean here in a second. Alright, so we're going to use Bitcoin as an example of how to use the scaling out method. So we're going to assume that we entered down here at 9,300. We're going to assume that our first profit target was the super trend line here at around 10,400. So that's a nice little gain. That is about a 10% gain or so, 11% gain. So what you would do here is you would sell a third of your profit here. So say you got 1 Bitcoin at 9,300. You would now sell 0.33 of your Bitcoin at 10,400. You could also do a quarter. Some people like to do like a 25% sell off. Some people like to do a third. It's really up to you. Find a method that works best for you and what your preferences are. But anyway, you would sell a portion here, and then you would wait. If it came back down to 9,300, if you feel this is good support, you could opt to buy back in with that original investment that you cashed out up here, and that would net you more than 0.33 Bitcoin, obviously, because the price is so much lower. Or you can just wait, and if it comes down, at least you cashed out some. You got some of that profit locked in, that 10% profit. And otherwise, if it breaks this resistance, say tonight, and runs up to this next profit target line, you would sell another percentage there. So if we hit this point, you've now made 25% gains, and you're going to cash out another quarter or another third or whatever it is that you find to be the right amount, and so on and so forth. If we get past this resistance, you would then cash out more here. And if this is your third trading, this is going to be where you stop. You're going to no longer cash out. This is going to be your last cash out. And then you're going to be looking for some kind of re-entry, possibly on a support dip back to 11,800, possibly to a support dip back to this area, but you're going to be looking for a re-entry at some point in the trade. Or if this was an altcoin per se, you may just say, I'm done with this trade. I'm not going to bother with this altcoin again for a while. I'm going to look for a different chart, a more fresh chart, something that's already down and kind of beaten and at support to enter with, right? So that's scaling out. All right, now we're going to get into the next one, which is trailing stop loss. And a trailing stop loss works very similar in the sense that you're going to set and plan your trade ahead of time. You're going to set the stop loss and you're going to set your profit targets. Now with the trailing stop loss, it's very imperative that when you enter the trade, you immediately set your first stop. Same thing, this can be a support stop, it can be a percentage stop. It's really up to you and your preference. As you hit your targets though, you're going to hit percentage stops more often than not than supports. And we'll kind of go over that again using the Bitcoin chart here. Alright, so we're back on Bitcoin again, and we'll make the same assumption, right, that we entered our trade around 9,300. Now, the difference here would be when we hit our 10,400 mark, we're not going to sell a portion. All we're going to do is move our stop loss up. So say our original stop loss was, I don't know, we'll say it was right here. This looks like good support, right? So say it was right here around like 9,000. That was our original stop loss from our 9,300 entry. So now we've hit our 10,400 mark. What we're going to do is we're going to slide this up. Now you could slide it up right to your entry. You can slide it up a little bit higher. It really depends on the risk tolerance you want to take. You know, from here, a 5% stop loss from this point would be around 9,800 or so. So you can do that. You could slide this up to 9,800, and now that's your new stop loss. And you're going to leave that in. And if it hits, you're out, and you look for re-entry lower, possibly down at 9,300 again. And if it doesn't, and we break this resistance, well, then you're going to adjust again. So say we break this resistance, and now we've hit the next target. We've hit 12,000 or 11,800, right? So now we're going to take this and we're going to move it up. Now you could move it again to the last profit target take that you didn't take because you're doing a trailing stop, or we could move it again up 5% mark. I prefer the percentage option, honestly, typically just because it's going to lock in more profit more often than not. If it comes down too far, you want to be able to get back in at a lower price. So you'd probably set your stop around here at 11,000, and you're just going to continually do this. So say we break it and you still haven't hit your stop, right? And we break and we go to 12.8. All right, so now we're at 12.8, and from here 5% is going to be at around, we'll call it 12,000, and then you're going to move your stop up to here, and you're going to keep doing this non-stop until your stop loss is hit. Same thing. If say we go all the way up to here, right? This is the last one I've got drawn right now. Actually, it's not. Sorry, this is the last one I've got drawn. Say we go to the Bitcoin all-time high and your stop still hasn't been hit. Guess what you're going to do? 5% stop. Maybe you want to get a little more liberal up here because of how much you're up right now. You're up about 110%. So maybe you want to go down to the 17,000 mark, right? So you drag it up. You're willing to risk that extra 5-10% to keep your trade, right? So you drag it all the way up to here, and you come in just under that 17,000 support zone. And now you hold it. And now if Bitcoin breaks out completely and goes over its all-time high, then you got to set new targets, and you keep bringing this line up with it. And until this stop gets hit, you don't have to get out. There's no reason to. You're only taking an extra 5% loss risk on the gains you've already made. And that's basically all it is. A trailing stop is going to be better in some situations than the other method. In other situations, it's going to be worse. You know, it really depends on the volatility of it all. If you were to go with something like, say, TRX, right? And we were to look at the move TRX made. If you entered TRX down at the bottom, it didn't really have too many flash dips, except for like here and that and this one here, and then otherwise you really had the opportunity to kind of just keep trailing this stop loss all the way up, because TRX, when it was running, I mean, it went straight up. Now if you had taken the other option and selling in, you know, thirds, you would have obviously taken profits on the way out here, and you would have taken profits on the way out in other areas. But the problem, or the difference is, you would have had re-entry targets, right? So say you entered here, and I mean, this is a 140% move, right, in 2 days. You probably would have cashed out somewhere around here, 30, 40 sats, right? And then you could have re-entered back down at 17, and then rode it back up to this 30, 40 sats again. And then you could have cashed out and re-entered again. And you know what? If it broke your resistance, that's fine. You could re-enter and set new profits. And you could have continually found these re-entry points in here and here and here. And there were constantly throughout the entire trade re-entry points. So don't look at a trailing stop and say, oh, this is so much better than scaling out on the way up, because it's not necessarily. There's going to be situations where you set a trailing stop and the coin drops right to your stop, triggers it, sells you out, and then rips back up. And in that case, you're going to wish that you were scaling out. And then there's going to be situations where you have scaling out strategies, and instead of coming back to fill you, it goes up 170% afterwards, right? You sell here and it just keeps going, and you never get back in. So neither one is flawless. The entire point of the method is to lock in some amount of profit so you're not dealing with these massive crashes. where you're losing 80% of the value because you didn't sell up here. You finally sold like down here where you got tired of holding it. So you entered down at 100 sats, say, and at one point you were up, you were up 1,000% from 200 sats all the way to the top, and you didn't sell there because, man, it could go further. And instead of having a stop loss at 1,800 sats, you didn't do anything. You just kind of waited around, and now you're stuck still holding it at 80% loss, and you're only up, let's do the math here. You're only up, if you entered at 200 and it went to 400, you're only up double. So you went from 1,000% gains to 100% gain because you just didn't have some kind of profit-taking strategy. And that's what we want to avoid. And it's not always going to be that you went from 1,000 to 100% gain. Sometimes it's going to be that you went from a 20% gain to a 20% loss. And that's the type of stuff we also want to avoid, because stopping losses is just as important as profits. And that's it, guys. Hopefully you'll employ these strategies to take profits more often and continue to grow your portfolios. And I'll see you guys next time.